The breaking point. Admiral Sarah Chen stood before the massive display screen in Earth's Central Command, her weathered face illuminated by the soft blue glow of thousands of data points. Each light represented a confirmed death, a murdered prisoner of war. The Orcs collective had executed every single human prisoner in their custody, over 3,000 soldiers and civilians who had surrendered during the recent border skirmishes. "Play it again," she commanded, her voice steady despite the rage burning in her chest. The recording flickered to life, showing High Commander Vextol of the Orcs addressing the Galactic Council. The human prisoners attempted a mass escape. The towering reptiloid stated, his secondary arms gesturing dismissively. "Our security forces had no choice but to employ lethal measures. We regret the loss of life, but maintain that our actions were justified under Article 7 of the Galactic Charter regarding prisoner management." The council members nodded in apparent acceptance of this transparent lie. Not a single one questioned the impossibility of 3,000 prisoners, held in separate facilities across 12 worlds, simultaneously attempting escape. Admiral Chen turned to face the assembled Joint Chiefs of Staff. "The evidence is conclusive. Our intelligence agents recovered mass grave locations on 3 Orcs worlds. DNA analysis confirms these are our people. They were systematically executed over the past 30 days, despite our ongoing peace negotiations." General Marcus Rodriguez, commander of Earth's ground forces, slammed his fist on the conference table. "They're testing us. The Orcs think we'll protest through diplomatic channels, file complaints with the Council, and ultimately accept their lies, just like every other lesser species they've subjugated." "They're wrong," Chen replied, bringing up another display. This one showed Earth's hidden military assets, the ships, weapons, and technologies that humanity had carefully kept secret from the galactic community. Authorization Sierra 019 is now active. Operation Nemesis begins in 6 hours. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Sierra 019 was the deadliest contingency plan in Earth's arsenal, designed for a scenario where diplomatic relations completely broke down and full-scale war became inevitable. "The Orcs believe they understand human psychology," Chen continued, her voice carrying to every corner of the room. "They think we'll follow the familiar pattern: official protests, economic sanctions, perhaps some limited military posturing. They expect us to play by their rules, to be predictable." She gestured to a holographic display of known Orcs military installations. "What they don't understand is that humanity's greatest strength isn't our technology or our numbers. It's our capacity for controlled fury. When pushed beyond a certain point, we don't simply react. We unleash hell itself." Commander Diana Foster, head of Special Operations, stepped forward. "Ghost Fleet Alpha is in position. The stealth systems have kept them completely hidden in the Arcturus sector for the past 3 months. They're ready to strike the moment we give the order." "And the Lazarus Protocol?" Chen asked, turning to Dr. James Zhang, Chief of Research and Development. "The nanite swarms are primed and ready," Zhang confirmed. "Once deployed, they'll disable the Orcs' quantum communication network. Their worlds will be cut off from each other, unable to coordinate a response." Admiral Chen nodded, then addressed the entire room. "I want to be clear about what we're proposing. This isn't just retaliation. It's a statement to the entire galaxy. For too long, humanity has played nice. We've accepted the Council's restrictions, pretended to be less advanced than we are, and trusted in diplomatic solutions." She paused, letting her gaze meet each person in the room. "That ends today. The Orcs didn't just kill our people, they murdered our trust in galactic civilization. Now they'll learn why Earth's ancient warriors painted their faces and sang songs of glory before battle. They'll understand why our ancestors carried banners into war and wrote epics about vengeance." Authorization confirmed. The room's AI announced, "Operation Nemesis is now active. All military units are switching to combat status. Ghost Fleet Alpha is awaiting final launch codes." Admiral Chen turned back to the main display, watching as thousands of hidden military assets came online across human space. In 6 hours, the galaxy would learn a lesson written in humanity's DNA. Never mistake patience for weakness. Send the order, she commanded, and prepare a message to the Galactic Council. They should know that their comfortable universe is about to change forever. As the commands were relayed and humanity's war machine awakened, Chen thought about the ancient Greek goddess Nemesis, divine retribution personified, the force that punishes hubris and restores cosmic balance. The Orcs had committed an atrocity, believing there would be no serious consequences. Soon they would learn that some lines, once crossed, could never be uncrossed. Humanity wasn't just going to fight. They were going to rewrite the rules of galactic warfare. The breaking point had been reached, and in the silence before the storm, humanity prepared to show the galaxy why ancient alien civilizations had once named their most terrifying weapons after Earth's warriors. Silent Thunder. The Orcs' High Command facility on Vexus Prime stood as a testament to their military might, a towering structure of crystalline alloys that stretched 2 kilometers into the violet sky. High Commander Vextal stood at his observation post, watching as defense platforms tracked incoming ships through the system's dense asteroid field. Another trading vessel seeking clearance, his subordinate reported. Standard procedures, Air. The rest of the sentence was lost in a deafening silence as every screen in the command center went dark. For 3 heartbeats, nothing electronic functioned. When the systems rebooted, the asteroid field had changed. Where there had been floating rocks, now there were ships. Hundreds of them, appearing as if birthed from the void itself. Their hulls seemed to drink in light rather than reflect it, their shapes defying standard naval architecture. Impossible, Vextal breathed. The humans don't have this technology. Their ships are primitive, their stealth systems basic at best. The first salvo answered his disbelief. Beams of concentrated dark energy, technology the humans had supposedly never mastered, lanced out from the Ghost Fleet. They didn't target the defense platforms or the military installations. Instead, they struck specific points in the upper atmosphere, creating a cascading reaction that transformed the sky into a conductor for electromagnetic energy. On the planet's surface, Captain Emma Hayes watched through quantum-enhanced binoculars as the Orcs' much-vaunted defensive grid began to fail. Her team of Special Operations Commandos had been on Vexus Prime for 3 months, disguised as maintenance workers, planting the seeds of this moment. Strike packages are ready, she subvocalized, her neural implant transmitting to the fleet above. The nanite swarms have compromised their primary and secondary communication arrays. They're operating on local systems only. Admiral Chen's voice came through with perfect clarity, despite the electromagnetic storm raging in the atmosphere. Execute Phase 2, Captain. Show them why we named this Operation Nemesis. Hayes smiled grimly as she gave the signal. Across the capital city, seemingly innocent maintenance robots, all built by supposedly primitive human companies, activated their true programming. Quantum processors that had been lying dormant sprang to life, broadcasting signals that turned the Orcs' own security systems against them. In orbit, the Ghost Fleet began its real work. The dark energy attacks had been a distraction. The true weapon was information. Every screen on Vexus Prime suddenly displayed the same images, recordings of human prisoners being executed, shown alongside proof of Orcs leadership ordering the killings. Similar broadcasts were happening on every Orcs world, a psychological weapon aimed at their own population. They're responding exactly as predicted, Hayes reported, watching Orcs civilians react to the revelations. Social unrest is beginning in the eastern districts. Military response is confused and uncoordinated without their quantum network. The Orcs had believed their quantum communication technology was unbreakable, that their military encryption was beyond human comprehension. They hadn't realized that Earth had cracked their codes years ago, had been listening and learning and planning. In high orbit, Admiral Chen watched the tactical display as the carefully orchestrated chaos unfolded. The Ghost Fleet's ships were revealing new capabilities with each passing moment. capabilities that shouldn't have been possible according to known physics. Quantum phase torpedoes passed through Arxer shields as if they weren't there. Gravity manipulation fields rendered their fastest ships immobile. Second wave is in position, Commander Foster reported from her stealth dreadnought, ready to begin the synchronized strike on their shipyards. Chen nodded, though no one could see her in the darkness of her command center. Remember our objectives. We're not here to destroy their civilization. We're here to dismantle their military capability and expose their leadership's crimes to their own people. The Arxer had expected a direct confrontation, a traditional military response. Instead, humanity had chosen to wage warfare on multiple fronts simultaneously: technological, psychological, and strategic. Each blow was calculated not just to damage, but to reveal, to expose the rot at the core of Arxer society. On the surface, Captain Hayes and her team began Phase 3. Quantum encrypted data packets were being transmitted to every Arxer citizen's personal device, showing them the truth their leadership had hidden. The executed prisoners had not been attempting escape. They had been eliminated because they had discovered evidence of long-term Arxer plans to subjugate every species in the galaxy. Their orbital defense grid is completely compromised, Hayes reported. Moving to secure the central command bunker. Resistance is minimal. They still haven't figured out how we got past their security. The answer was elegant in its simplicity. Humanity hadn't tried to break through the Arxers' advanced alien technology. Instead, they had used the Arxers' own arrogance against them. Every piece of human technology had been designed to appear primitive, had been built to be underestimated. The Ghost Fleet's ships weren't actually invisible. They were covered in quantum reactive materials that had been disguised as simple hull plating. The maintenance robots weren't basic automation. They were advanced AI systems playing dumb. Every human technology that the Arxer had dismissed as primitive had been a carefully crafted lie. As the operation entered its fourth hour, Admiral Chen received confirmation that similar attacks were succeeding across Arxer space. Their mighty empire, built on technological superiority and military strength, was being dismantled by the very species they had dismissed as barely worthy of notice. "Send word to Earth," Chen commanded. "Silent Thunder is successful. Begin Phase 3 deployment. It's time to show the galaxy that humanity's greatest weapon isn't our technology. It's our capacity to learn from every defeat, to turn every setback into an opportunity for advancement." The real thunder was still to come. This was just the opening act of humanity's response to betrayal. The galaxy was about to learn why ancient Earth cultures had so many gods of war, and why even their gods feared human vengeance. The Ghost Fleet. News of humanity's devastating counterattack spread through the galactic community like a shockwave. In the Grand Chamber of the Galactic Council, representatives from 100 species watched in stunned silence as footage from the Arxer worlds played across the massive holographic displays. Councillor Zethra of the Moran Confederation rose from his seat, his crystalline form reflecting the chaos displayed above. "This is impossible." The humans were assessed as a Type 2 civilization at best. These capabilities, this level of technological advancement, they've been deceiving us all. The human representative, Ambassador Marcus Wright, stood calmly at the center of the chamber. Unlike his predecessor, who had pleaded for intervention when the prisoners were executed, Wright projected an aura of controlled power. "For centuries," he began, his voice carrying easily through the vast space, "humanity has endured the condescension of the galactic community. We've been dismissed as primitive, underdeveloped, barely worth notice. The Arxer saw this as weakness. They assumed our restraint was inability." Above them, new footage began playing. Massive ships emerging from what appeared to be empty space, their hulls covered in a material that seemed to devour light itself. The Ghost Fleet, as it was already being called in panicked Arxer transmissions. "What you're witnessing," Wright continued, "is merely the surface of human military capability. The Ghost Fleet represents a fraction of our true strength. We chose to hide our advancement not out of fear, but because we hoped to join the galactic community as equals, to prove ourselves through peaceful achievement. In deep space, aboard the flagship Nemesis, Admiral Chen was overseeing the next phase of the operation. The Ghost Fleet had split into 3 battle groups, each targeting a different sector of Arxer space. But their true purpose wasn't mere military victory. "Status report on the quantum infiltration," she asked, studying the tactical display. Dr. Zhang's hologram appeared beside her. "The nanite swarms have penetrated every major Arxer database. We're uncovering centuries of hidden communications. The prisoner executions weren't an isolated incident. They've been systematically eliminating potential threats to their dominance for generations." The information was being broadcast across all frequencies in all languages. The Arxers' carefully maintained image of civilized restraint was being shattered, replaced by the truth of their brutal imperialism. On the Arxer homeworld, High Commander Vextal was facing a rebellion within his own ranks. Junior officers, disgusted by the revealed atrocities, were refusing orders. The carefully maintained hierarchy of the Arxer military was crumbling in the face of undeniable evidence of their leadership's crimes. "You don't understand," he raged at his subordinates. "Everything we did was necessary. The humans had to be shown their place. They had to learn." "Learn what, exactly?" The voice came from everywhere and nowhere, as the room's own communication systems turned against him. Captain Hayes' team had penetrated the central command bunker, not through force, but through careful manipulation of the Arxers' own security protocols. "The only lesson here," Hayes continued, stepping out of what had appeared to be a solid wall, "another example of human technology that shouldn't have existed, is that humanity's greatest strength isn't our weapons, it's our patience." In the council chamber, Wright was explaining this very concept. "For 300 years, since we first detected alien signals, humanity has prepared. We studied every species, learned every technology, and built our capabilities in secret. Not because we planned conquest, but because we understood a fundamental truth about power." He paused, letting his gaze sweep across the assembled representatives. "True strength isn't about domination. It's about restraint. We could have revealed our capabilities at any time. We could have demanded recognition, forced our way into the galactic community. Instead, we waited, hoped for peaceful integration." The tactical displays showed the Ghost Fleet's progress. Arxer military installations were being systematically disabled, their weapons turned to useless metal by targeted quantum disruption fields. But no cities were being bombed, no civilian populations targeted. "This isn't revenge," Admiral Chen transmitted to all ships. "This is justice, precise, measured, and undeniable. Every action we take must serve a purpose beyond mere destruction." The Ghost Fleet's ships demonstrated this philosophy in action. Their advanced technology wasn't being used to annihilate the Arxer, but to surgically dismantle their ability to wage war. Quantum-locked containment fields trapped their most powerful warships. Targeted electromagnetic pulses disabled military systems while leaving civilian infrastructure intact. In the council chamber, the representatives were beginning to understand the full implications of what they were witnessing. Humanity hadn't just hidden their technological advancement. They had created entirely new branches of science, developed capabilities that some had thought theoretically impossible. "The Ghost Fleet," Wright explained, "isn't named for its stealth capabilities. It's named for what it represents, the phantom of humanity's potential for violence, always present but rarely seen. We chose to keep it hidden, to give peace every possible chance." He turned to address Counselor Sethra directly. "You asked if this was impossible. The real impossibility would have been continuing to trust in a system that allowed the strong to prey upon the weak. The Arxer didn't just kill our people, they killed our faith in the galaxy's ability to maintain justice." The footage from Vexus Prime showed the final phase beginning. The Ghost Fleet's ships were deploying massive arrays of quantum resonators, devices that would permanently prevent the operation of certain classes of military technology within their range. "We're not here to conquer," Wright concluded. "We're here to reset the balance. The Orcs believed they could act with impunity because they thought they understood the limits of possible technology. They believed their own propaganda about human capabilities. That mistake will cost them their empire, but not their civilization. In the silence that followed, the representatives of the galaxy's most powerful species found themselves reevaluating everything they thought they knew about humanity. The species they had dismissed as primitive had been quietly advancing beyond their wildest expectations, waiting for a reason to reveal their true strength. The Ghost Fleet wasn't just a military force, it was a message to the galaxy. Humanity had chosen peace until peace was no longer an option. Now they would demonstrate why ancient Earth cultures had so many words for different kinds of war, and why patience should never be mistaken for weakness. Chains of command. The Galactic Council's emergency session entered its third day as reports continued to flood in from across Arxer space. The mighty empire that had stood for millennia was being systematically dismantled, not through brutal force, but through precise application of technologies that defied conventional understanding. On the crystalline world of Taurus Prime, home to the galaxy's most advanced scientific institutes, Director Valthera watched the latest analysis with growing unease. Their quantum manipulation technology is at least 3 centuries beyond our theoretical models, she announced to the assembled scientific council. The humans haven't just matched our advancement. They've been quietly surpassing us in ways we thought impossible. The Ghost Fleet's true nature was becoming clear. Each ship was a technological marvel, combining innovations from dozens of species into something entirely new. But it was the coordination between these ships that truly demonstrated humanity's capabilities. Admiral Chen stood on the bridge of the Nemesis, watching as another Arxer battle group attempted to mount a resistance. Their ships, once considered the pinnacle of military technology, now seemed primitive in comparison. They're trying to adapt, Commander Foster reported, her hologram flickering beside Chen. Their engineers are attempting to modify their quantum shields to resist our penetration techniques. Chen allowed herself a small smile. Let them. Each adaptation reveals more of their technical capabilities. Dr. Zhang's teams are collecting data on their entire technological foundation. In the depths of the Nemesis, Dr. Zhang and his research teams were doing far more than gathering intelligence. They were testing theories that had been developed over centuries of secret research, confirming hypotheses about the nature of space, time, and reality itself. The Arxer's fundamental mistake, Zhang explained to his team, wasn't underestimating our military capability. It was assuming that human scientific understanding would follow the same path as other species. We didn't just develop new technologies. We approached the very concept of scientific advancement differently. On Vexus Prime, Captain Hayes and her team had secured the central military archives. The data they were uncovering painted a picture of an empire built on carefully maintained illusions of superiority. They'd been suppressing technological advancement in other species, Hayes reported, her voice tight with controlled anger. Any civilization that showed signs of developing beyond acceptable limits was subtly sabotage. The Arxer didn't just maintain their dominance through force. They engineered the galaxy's technological development to keep everyone else dependent on them. The revelation sparked a crisis in the Galactic Council. Species that had long relied on Arxer technology for everything from space travel to medical care suddenly realized the extent of their manipulation. The chains of command that had bound the galaxy together were being exposed as instruments of control. Ambassador Wright stood before the council again, his presence now commanding a very different kind of attention. The Arxer's greatest weapon wasn't their military might or their advanced technology. It was their ability to convince everyone else that advancement could only happen along certain predetermined paths. He gestured to a holographic display showing the fundamental principles behind human quantum manipulation technology. We developed our capabilities in secret not just to avoid detection, but because we knew our approaches would be dismissed as impossible by conventional galactic science. The display showed how human scientists had combined seemingly unrelated theories from a dozen different species, finding connections that others had missed. Where the Arxer had pushed for linear technological progression, humanity had explored in all directions simultaneously. Your chains of command, Wright continued, extended beyond military and political structures. They created chains of thought, limiting how species could imagine their own potential. We chose to break those chains before we ever revealed ourselves. In orbit around the Arxer homeworld, the Ghost Fleet was demonstrating this philosophy in action. Instead of simply overwhelming the planet's defenses, they were systematically revealing how each defensive system had been designed to reinforce dependency on Arxer technology. The quantum shield generators, Zhang explained to the Scientific Council via quantum-entangled communication, weren't just protective devices. They were monitoring systems, collecting data on every species' technological capabilities. The Arxer used this information to ensure no one developed beyond their controlled parameters. The implications were staggering. Every piece of Arxer technology shared with other species had been a link in their chains of command, a way to monitor and control advancement throughout the galaxy. Admiral Chen watched as another Arxer battle group surrendered, their commanders finally understanding the futility of resistance. But it wasn't just military defeat they were facing. It was the collapse of their entire worldview. They thought they were the masters of technological advancement, Chen observed to her command staff. Instead, they were prisoners of their own assumptions about how technology should develop. While they were watching for species to develop along predictable paths, we were exploring directions they never imagined possible. The Ghost Fleet's ships began their final deployment phase, establishing a new kind of quantum network that would prevent the kind of technological suppression the Arxer had maintained for centuries. It wasn't just a military victory being achieved. It was the liberation of galactic scientific advancement itself. In the council chamber, the representatives of 100 species were beginning to understand that the galaxy they had known was gone. The chains of command that had bound them for so long were being replaced by something new, a system where advancement would no longer be controlled by any single species. Humanity had not just defeated the Arxer military. They had shattered the intellectual bonds that had constrained galactic development for millennia. The Ghost Fleet wasn't just a military force. It was the harbinger of a new age of unlimited technological potential. As Wright concluded his address to the council, he shared one final insight into human nature. We hid our true capabilities not out of fear, but because we understood something fundamental about power. The strongest chains are the ones people accept willingly, believing them to be natural laws rather than artificial constraints. Today, those chains begin to break. Reckoning. In the heart of the Arxer capital city, High Commander Vextal stood in chains before a gathering unlike any the galaxy had seen before. Representatives from every species affected by Arxer dominance had assembled to witness this final reckoning. But it wasn't a military tribunal they had formed. It was something far more profound. Admiral Chen, Ambassador Wright, and Captain Hayes stood together, representing humanity not as conquerors, but as architects of a new future. Behind them, the Ghost Fleet hung in the sky, its ships now visible to all, their true nature finally revealed. "You think this is victory?" Vextal snarled, his proud bearing undiminished despite his circumstances. "You've merely replaced our dominion with your own." Wright stepped forward, his voice carrying across the assembly. "If that's what you still believe, then you understand nothing about humanity. Today isn't about victory. It's about truth." Dr. Zhang's hologram materialized in the center of the gathering. Alongside him, the quantum data cores that contained centuries of Arxer secrets. For 3,000 years, he began, the Arxer didn't just rule through military might. They controlled the very way species thought about technological advancement, scientific discovery, and their own potential. The assembled representatives watched as the evidence was laid bare. Every technological gift the Arxer had shared had contained hidden limitations, subtle blocks that prevented recipient species from advancing beyond certain points. Every trade agreement had included clauses that maintained dependency. Every alliance had been carefully crafted to ensure Arxer supremacy. "But that wasn't your greatest crime," Admiral Chen declared, activating a holographic display that showed the mass graves of human prisoners. Your greatest crime was believing that you could predict how humanity would respond. You thought you understood us because you studied our visible technology, our public capabilities. Captain Hayes stepped forward, her combat armor now revealed as far more advanced than anything the Orcs had believed possible. You saw what we wanted you to see. Every piece of primitive human technology was a carefully crafted deception. While you were watching for advancement along paths you understood, we were exploring directions you never imagined. The Ghost Fleet began its final transformation. The ship's outer hulls shifted, revealing layers of technology that combined principles from a dozen different species in ways that defied conventional understanding. They weren't just warships. They were mobile research platforms, each one containing innovations that would revolutionize galactic science. Humanity's greatest strength, Reich continued, isn't our technology or our military might. It's our ability to imagine futures that others consider impossible. While the Orcs were maintaining their chains of control, we were dreaming of ways to break them not just for ourselves, but for every species in the galaxy. Dr. Zhang activated another display, this one showing the new quantum network humanity had created. This network isn't controlled by any single species. It's a true collaborative platform, designed to foster innovation and share knowledge without restriction. The very concept was considered impossible under Orcs doctrine. The assembled representatives watched in awe as their own scientists began accessing the network, discovering possibilities that had been hidden from them for centuries. The chains of technological suppression were being replaced by bridges of collaboration. Your execution of our prisoners was meant to show your power, Chen addressed Vextal. Instead, it revealed your fundamental weakness. You believed that fear and control were the only ways to maintain order in the galaxy. You never understood that true power comes from lifting others up, not holding them down. The Ghost Fleet's final act began. From each ship, streams of quantum-encoded data flowed outward, carrying the accumulated knowledge of human scientific advancement. But it wasn't being given freely. It was being shared with conditions. Every species here will have access to these advancements, Wright announced, but not as passive recipients. We're establishing a new galactic scientific coalition, where every member contributes to collective advancement. The age of technological suppression is over. Vextal watched as his empire's carefully maintained system of control crumbled. But what replaced it wasn't chaos. It was something the Orcs had never imagined possible. Species that had been kept deliberately separated began forming research partnerships. Technologies that had been developed in isolation were being combined in revolutionary ways. This is humanity's true revenge, Hayes declared. Not destruction, but creation. Not dominion, but liberation. We're not here to rule the galaxy. We're here to ensure no one else ever can. The Ghost Fleet's ships began dispersing, taking up positions throughout the galaxy. But they weren't establishing military control points. Each ship would serve as a nucleus for a new research center, staffed by scientists from multiple species working together without restriction. As the day drew to a close, Admiral Chen stood before the assembled representatives one final time. The Orcs believed they could predict human behavior because they thought they understood power. They never realize that humanity's greatest achievement isn't our technology. It's our ability to imagine a future where power is shared, not hoarded. The reckoning wasn't just with the Orcs. It was with an entire way of thinking about galactic civilization. The age of single-species dominion was ending, replaced by something new. A civilization where advancement would come through collaboration, not control. In the end, humanity's response to betrayal hadn't been simple revenge. It had been a complete reimagining of what galactic civilization could be. The Ghost Fleet hadn't just won a war. It had initiated a revolution in how species would interact and advance together. As Vextal was led away to face justice, he finally understood what humans had known all along. True power doesn't come from controlling others, but from helping them reach their full potential. The galaxy was entering a new age, one where the chains of command would be replaced by bonds of cooperation, and where the greatest achievements would come not from competition, but from collaboration. The stars themselves seemed brighter that night, as if reflecting the promise of a future where no species would ever again need to hide their true potential.